Hello, I'm Julian Russell. Do you know your life calling? Knowing your life calling is one of the most important things that you can have in your life. There are three forms of meaning in life. Meaning through giving your gift to the world, meaning through love and relationship, and meaning through how you face the human condition, the agony and the ecstasy of living, what it's like to be a live existence. And all of those three are really important. But the one that I'm talking about today particularly is the first one, which is meaning through making your contribution to the world, your gift to the world. And this is both about yourself and other people. It's about you expressing yourself fully into the world. So life calling is a sense of purpose that is to do with accomplishment that is truly meaningful to yourself and has consequences, positive consequences for other people in the world. So life calling is a combination of what you're most passionate about, what's most important to you, and giving that to the world and to yourself. And it starts with oneself and then it's for the world. There's research in positive psychology on life calling. There are three ways that people go about work. The first is they work for money, and then they use their spare time to do things that are of interest to them. The second is that people have career orientation, which is that they want to be the boss, the chief executive, they want to get to the top of their field. And the third is that they have a calling, they have a passion, it's important to them. And that third group is shown by the research to make more money, to be more successful, to bounce back in the face of failure better than other people, to have better health outcomes. I'll come back to that more. There are quite a lot of diseases that are correlated, or low expectation of having those diseases is correlated with life purpose and life expectancy as well. So, how could you not want all of these things? Also in terms of well-being and quality of life, there's research that supports all of this. And the idea of life calling is a key part of the positive psychology movement, as well as transpersonal psychology, other types of psychology. And there are three sort of key components that are really important. The first is, it's what you most want for yourself. It's your innermost passion. It's your dedication. It's your story about your life. And secondly, it's your gift to the world. And then there's a third element, which I'll talk about, which is that it's also a way of redeeming, of putting right, of doing something about any of the difficulties that you've had in your early life, because life calling, like strengths and talents, comes out of the first 7 years of your life, is very influenced by the first 7 years of your life. My life calling is helping people blossom, starting with myself. So notice that it's not a job description, is it? So one of the first key criteria around life calling is that it's 1 degree chunked up, 1 degree more abstract than a job description. But if you think about helping people blossom, I could be a coach, I could be a group facilitator, I could be a teacher, I could be a manager in a business. There are lots of different jobs that would fit that life calling for me. I could be a psychotherapist, and I am many of those things. So that's the first principle, that it's 1 degree abstract from a job description. The second principle is that it's both for myself and other people. It's both a gift to the world and it's something that I most want for myself. Now, elsewhere you will have heard my story probably about having a very difficult childhood, my mother going back to work very quickly, not bonding with my mother, being quite depressed and lonely during the course of my childhood. My brother, as he grew up, became a heroin addict, and I focused on personal development. My sense was that I had to find a way to live I had to focus on blossoming. I had to focus on my own development, or I could have gone the way of my twin brother, which eventually led to heroin addiction and to death in his 40s. And so this isn't some trivial thing for me. This is something deeply important that came out of the early part of my life. People are more successful if they focus on their life calling because they're doing what they love. If you do what you love, you'll be more successful. And Steve Jobs talks a lot about this. He says you've got to find what you love because otherwise you wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur. You wouldn't want to run your own business. You wouldn't want to focus on the difficulty of making something unique and special happen in the world. And that's why lots of people take, moderately interesting jobs. A lot of people want to do run-of-the-mill type of things with their life because it's safer, there's less risk. But actually, if you have a life calling, you're much, much less interested in risk, and you're much more resilient to failure. So resilience is about how well and how quickly you bounce back from difficulty. And people with a life calling, just start again. They try it another way, they try it this way, they try it that way. Research shows that of people starting new businesses, 90% of new businesses often fail, but that of that 10%, but of those 90% that fail, the ones who start new businesses a second time are likely to succeed, are 90% likely to succeed. So I'm not sure actually how accurate, if that's a genuine statistic or not. I don't know where it came from, to be quite honest. But that's that idea that you may fail at things, you try things out, you fail at things, but if you're doggedly persistent about what it is that you want to give to the world, you're much more likely to succeed. Actually, the comedian Jim Carrey said that his father decided not to be a comedian because it was too risky, became an accountant, got made redundant, and never got a job again. And Jim Carrey said, well, if you can fail doing something you don't love, you might as well fail doing something that you do love. And Jim Carrey became a comedian. So there's lots of interesting stuff around success because people are really willing to pursue mastery, to become expert in the area of their life calling. If you're doing what you love, you put more effort into it, you put more time into it, you'll do more training, and you'll be less difficulty will be less of an obstacle because you'll want to overcome it. Let's talk about the health outcomes. There's research that says that people get less heart attack and strokes if they have a sense of purpose. They're likely to hold off dementia, less dementia. Let me look at my piece of paper. Better sleep, and this is the one that I've only just discovered today. I was looking in New Scientist on this. A better sex life. If you have a life calling, you'll have a better sex life. I'd like to look into the evidence around that, and perhaps I'll do a talk specifically on that. That will get more people coming, I'm absolutely sure. And there's also some interesting research on people in old people's homes, and the ones who have a sense of purpose live longer than the ones that don't. So really, let's all find our life calling, and let's have the focus of our lives be on what we're passionate about and what's most interesting to us. So let me give you talk you through some life callings of people that I've worked with. Bringing people closer to their divinity. Now, it doesn't really tell you what the job description is, and actually it wouldn't be surprising if she was some sort of priest, but actually she is a playwright and runs, Imogen Butler Coles runs a theatre company, and for her that moment in theatre when everybody stops, you could drop a pin, that is her aspiration. And she doesn't talk about her life calling very much because life callings are big. Those moments are hard to create. Just as I would say that helping people blossom, starting with myself, I've got so much more development to do for myself, and I don't want to be arrogant about helping other people. someone I know is a photographer, and her life calling is bringing joy to people through creativity and lightness. Bringing joy to people through creativity and lightness, and that's best expressed for her through photography. There's someone that was on a course recently who is a senior manager, a divisional manager, senior executive in a quite formal, old-fashioned consulting firm, and his life calling is bringing out the best in myself and others. And actually most of the leaders in that organisation will be very sales orientated, they'll be very focused on the numbers. And it's great to have someone in an organisation like that who's focused on developing people, which of course, you know, is a key component of leadership. It will really inform his own style of leadership, and by linking it to his own personal journey of needing the feeling that he needs to develop himself, linking the way that he's a leader to his own personal journey makes it a lot more interesting for him. Cathy Owen, my friend Cathy Owen's life calling is to live in beauty, trusting my voice in the world. And through the life calling work, she discovered her sort of passion for beauty in the natural world, beauty in life, beauty in experience. And she you know, and also trusting her voice in the world was very important. At that time she came up with some goals, which was 1, to work for the National Theatre, and 2, to work for an ethical company that paid properly and, you know, was also worked in mainstream theatres. And she's been touring the country with Cardboard Citizens, and she was in a production recently for the National Theatre of Wales. And that focus on, particularly, you can sort of, you know, just from a distance get the sense of finding her voice in the world. The funny thing about the theatre business is that you have to talk to an awful lot of people to get work, and knowing your own voice would be particularly important in that process. My friend Tiu Dehan, her life calling, she's a ritual designer, she's a celebrant, she teaches creativity in organisations to quantum physicists, amongst other things. And when she was young, one of the wonderful things about her mother was how her mother taught her to play and made the whole business of wonder so important. And when Tia was, I think she was 18, her mother died of an asthma attack. That was obviously a very, very tragic thing in her life. And after that, Tia started to continue, perhaps she'd already had it already, but she continued to carry the torch of the possibility of wonder, creating experiences of the possibility of wonder. And there's someone else who did a course recently where the life calling was celebrating the loving gifts of the universe. Celebrating the loving gifts of the universe and encouraging others to do the same. Or perhaps you could even say celebrating the loving gifts of the universe and encouraging others to do the same. And quite a while ago, actually, she stopped her career and became a full-time mum. And her children are growing up and going to university. And she's sort of wondering about what her place in the world is. But you can really see how she's such a sort of motherly mum. And you can really see how that would fulfill that life calling. Celebrating the loving gifts of the universe. You know, that is such a sort of motherly type of, you know, the job of mother fits very, very well with that life calling. And it'll be interesting to see how she takes that quality and expresses it into the world, you know, now that her children are going to university. So lots of different life callings. I could do another 50 or 100. Lots of the most you know, successful people in the world have, you can't always quite identify the words of their life calling, but you can get a sense of their life calling. We know that Howard Schwartz, who is the CEO of Starbucks, interestingly enough, his life calling isn't around coffee or food. His father worked in a manufacturing plant and had a bad experience of being managed, old-fashioned rather brutal management style. And as a child he thought, when I grow up I want to run a business where people like to work. And of course, even though the job of a barrister or barista in a coffee shop isn't the greatest job in the world, by and large the Starbucks people are friendly and helpful, and they try to create a pleasant atmosphere in their shop. So there's something that Howard Schwartz caught onto that was more important really than coffee, but that is the underpinning of what Starbucks is about. So when you know your life calling, your life changes. You're helping people fulfill their potential, or helping people blossom, starting with myself, is a sort of key aspect of my life. I'm just about to go off on a Buddhist retreat. I go and attend workshops on awareness practice, mindfulness. I'm always, I meditate, I develop myself, I pursue mastery in a number of different things, such as dance, 5 rhythms. I do a lot of that. I'm always seeking to develop myself, body, emotion, mind and spirit, and I've surrounded myself with people who like the same thing. Once you know your life calling, you will start to surround yourself with people who have the same interests as yourself. Your community will become stronger. You'll get more of a tribe. Once you accept and love and admire who you are and what you stand for, then you'll be much more confident about expressing that out into the world. And then you'll naturally collect around you people who have the same sort of interests. And that's very, very powerful from a self-confidence, self-belief, happiness point of view, to have people who have the same values as yourself. You know what you stand for in the world, and you want to be with people who are like that. Also, there's this transformational quality of life calling as well, because of course the one person I couldn't help blossom in my childhood was my twin brother. But I made a poetic vow, which was that if I couldn't help him, then I would help other people. So there's a part of my gift to the world is a gift to him. It's an honouring of him. It's something that I'm doing on his behalf, in a way. And that's a very, very powerful part of my inner motivation. So once you know the difference that you make in the world, life becomes a lot more exciting. I'm 62, and my friend and flatmate, Malcolm Stern, he's actually a little bit older than me. We're both passionate about giving our gifts to the world. And I figure that I'll, if my brain holds out, my body holds out, I'll continue to work full-time till I'm 80. Maybe then I'll go part-time, we'll just have to see. So there's something very life-enhancing about knowing the difference that you make in the world and giving it to the world. Now, one additional point that's worth making here, it's not just the life calling, it's the combination of your life calling and your strengths. So quite a few life callings can sound quite similar to each other, because the words are, in psychology speak, we'd say big chunk. They're quite general phrases. But when you put them together with your skills, there's a particular flavour, your talents, your strengths. There's a particular flavour of the combination that is unique to you. You'll be the only person in the world who does it. And the life calling, as I've said, can be expressed through many different job descriptions. You don't have to tell people what your life calling is, because the words are personal to you. I'm not going to necessarily walk into a big bank and tell people that I help people blossom. But I can walk into a big bank and say, I focus on developing people, especially in emotional intelligence about themselves and emotional intelligence about other people. Business results, high performance in business, correlates with the engagement of staff. Emotional intelligence about people will help you engage your staff. To have emotional intelligence about other people, you need to have emotional intelligence about yourself. You have to know yourself. So you can see how helping people blossom can have a major impact on business performance. So I can talk about it in that sort of way to large organizations. So find your life calling and make it the center of your life, and then you will have something to explore, your own self-expression into the world, that will really make a difference to the quality of your life and other people's lives. It doesn't always have to be big. You can, if you just impact a few people, maybe the person who has a life calling around celebrating the loving gifts of the universe, maybe she'll never become famous. You know, maybe she'll just be a motherly figure to a few people other than her children. You know, if we make a difference to a few people in the world, then our lives have been successful. Let's put it that way. And I think also if we make a difference to a few people outside our own families, because it's, you know, it's sort of easy in a way. We know that it's good to make a difference to our families, particularly our children. But if we broaden that feeling to slightly broader than that, we can die knowing that we left the world a slightly better place through our actions. I'm running a workshop on Discover Your Life Calling in February. I can't think of the dates right now, but you can find the details on my website, www.lifetalent.com, or on the Facebook page. I very much look forward to hearing from you. You can message me, email me, or on the website, on the homepage, you can also book a time to talk to me on the phone if you want to. Let me know how I can support you. Great to talk to you today.